We tell men to spin plates and be with lots of women, and then we tell women to be virgins. Isn't there maybe a problem with this picture? Yes or no? We're going to discuss that and how this all works in this video today. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. Hit the notification bell. Check your notification bell too, because sometimes for some reason, YouTube will, take that out for whatever reason. And so you might want to, give that a look and share and like and all that good stuff. So let's get into it, right? Okay, so especially in red pill advice and circles, and we're telling men to go be with lots of women, bang lots of women. Some of my friends in the space think that you shouldn't even consider a relationship without having slept with a minimum of 50 women. All right, so that's some advice too, which I don't put a number on it. That's not my prescription. That's theirs, but I get why they say that. All right. And but then we rail against women though for their sexual behavior, their notch counts, and there seems to be a disconnect. And I've had this question come up a few times, which is like, well, how does this work? Like, that doesn't work numbers wise. And if we're telling women to, be sexually exclusive and to keep their notch count down, and we're telling men to keep their notch count up, like, if everyone listens to that advice, it doesn't really work out, right? And that seems to be the problem, all right, for that some people will have with this. They don't really understand why that advice is the way it is. So first thing is, there's a couple of flaws in people who criticize the advice. There's some flaws in that criticism. One is perfect world fallacy. Okay. And this is kind of what the churches tend to do too. All right. They approach things. And I'm not saying, every religious circle, but this tends to be the thing where they approach it where, well, in this perfect utopian world, what would be the ideal? And then everyone needs to behave within this ideal. So they're looking for the perfect solution where if every woman on the planet did, the right behavior, and every man on the planet did the right behavior, then how would men and women come together then and be happy, right? Like, how would that look? And the problem with that is it's an interesting philosophical experiment, but it's not practical and it's not real, because we live in a society that is the way that it is. All right. We can move society in one direction or another for sure, but there is no perfect utopian scenario. What we need to do is look at reality for what it is. So when I give out advice as to what men should do and what women should do, I'm advising based on the situation of the sexual marketplace right now, not based on what some idealistic image of the sexual marketplace should be. And then here's the decisions you make, because in this perfect world, that's what would be the right idea. And that's a mistake a lot of traditional conservatives make. It's like, well, if women just behave like this and men behave like this, then everyone would be happy, because in a perfect world, if everyone did these things, everything would work out. But that's not how the world works, and that's not how life is. And so when I'm giving advice to somebody, my concern is about helping that individual to be happy and fulfilled and getting what they want in their goals. Okay. And that's my main concern. I'm not trying to create a perfect world. I'm trying to help out this individual to do better in the world we exist in right now. Okay. That's a pragmatic approach. I'm a realist, and this is the pragmatic approach. And so when I dispense advice to you guys, I'm giving you pragmatic advice based on where we're at today. Now, that advice might alter a little bit. I mean, female nature doesn't change much. Male nature doesn't change much. but in our lifetime, right? It takes a long time for genetic changes to take hold, but environmental changes might happen, and I might have to adjust some of my advice 5 years from now, 10 years from now, based on the environment that we're in. I mean, case in point, I adjusted my pickup advice and strategy for getting women to the COVID and pandemic virus and situation we're in with COVID restrictions. You see what I mean? That's a change in the pragmatic circumstance where we're at now, leaning more towards dating apps and text game, for example, rather than just day game pickup. Not that day game pickup is lost, but the need for digital communication and being good and savvy with game with that rose for people, and in order to create those opportunities, right? And so I adjusted my information to suit that need. And that's what we're doing here. We're taking principles and concepts that work and our understanding of male and female nature, and we're looking at the situation we're in, not a fantasy situation that'll never exist, or some situation even that we hope to exist in the future. Okay, right now we are in a gynocentric society, influenced by modern day feminism, influenced by woke culture, and we're in a society or an environment where masculinity is, kind of under attack, right? These are just realities. This is just a reality of it. Okay. And so the dating market, and then we're in a global sexual marketplace, and this is the reality of the dating market. And so I can help you make the decisions that's best for you in the dating market as it is in real life, not in some fantasy. Okay. And that will help you get you to where you want to be. If I'm giving you advice based on some sort of higher principles on the way that I hope that things would be in the future, the way that a perfect world would be, like a perfect, let's say, traditional conservative world or something, that's not going to help you today. In fact, that's going to lead you to making a lot of bad decisions and failing. All right. Now I'm tailoring it down to the individual strategy, right? And men and women are different. So that's the other thing. So not only am I a pragmatist about what the environment is like, so when I'm teaching guys to navigate through a sexual marketplace where most women can't pair bond and women are far more promiscuous today than ever before, I'm not saying that that's the way it should be. I'm not telling men to make decisions based on women who save themselves till marriage, right? That doesn't make sense. It's not the environment we're in. Now, if you find an individual that's a little bit different than the environment, cool, but usually that's not the case, right? And so I'm teaching you how to handle the current marketplace, how to vet in the sexual marketplace as it is. And guess what? And once again, men and women are different. So the advice I'm going to give a man is different than the advice I'm going to give a woman. What a sexual strategy for a woman based on her wiring and her experiences with what she's going to want is different than what advice I'm going to give to a man. And that's why we can tell men to spin plates, right? And women to protect their sexuality, because men and women are different. And what's going to lead a man to happiness and fulfillment in a relationship, or his relationships with women, where the women are also happy and fulfilled, is different. If he does what a girl does, he won't get there. If a girl does what a guy is supposed to do, she won't get there either. All right. So we need to understand that fundamental. So we switched over to this cool whiteboard, and let's illustrate something. We'll do a little, it's not really going to be a graph. It's just going to be an illustration. And bear with me. Okay. So we got this little guy here. All right, let's look at men and women. All right, and let's look at our sexual strategy, and let's talk about how these sexual strategies can complement each other, even though they're fundamentally different. This is something that gets brought up a lot and doesn't get addressed often. So I thought it'd be a fun video to do, right? Okay, let's take the average age women are having sex, right? Let's call it age 15. Okay, so women and men, let's say, bust their virginity at 15. Okay, let's just say that's what it is. And we're going to talk about sexual strategies, male and female. Okay. So let's look at a optimal, what could be an optimal male strategy. Now, once again, we're looking idealistically here because there's different life circumstances and there's similarity, there's principles we want to follow. Okay. And we'll get into those principles, but it's going to look maybe different as to how it all plays out per person. What's important is that people follow principles and don't do dumb things and do things that are good for them. All right. So let's say a dude, 15-year-old, he starts becoming sexually active or whatever. And let's not even revolve it around sex. In fact, let's not care about sex too much, but he starts dating, we'll say. Okay. So for a man, 15 to 18, let's say he gets out of the house at about 18 or whatever. He's looking at pursuing life, college, trades, whatever it may be, jumping right into a job. He's working somewhere and figuring out how he's going to increase his value as a man. So a man is at the lowest value here between 15, 18, and he really doesn't reach peak value till he's about into his mid 30s. Okay. So since the quality of your relationships and the types of women that a guy would want in his life is a function of three things, which are his sexual market value, his game or abilities with women, okay, or rather his skills is what I call it, his skills, and his opportunity. All right. So 15 to 18, I mean, depends on the high school he goes to, his level of opportunity, right? But what's missing the most for a guy here is sexual market value, right? So he might have opportunity, you know what I mean, for frequent sexual opportunities with women. He might have start to develop some skill even. But, an 18, 19-year-old, his level of skill or his level of sexual market value is going to be much lower than a 30-year-old man. Okay. And so this is why we advise that men don't get into a commitment till he's in his mid 30s. Okay. Let's just say 35. All right. So this is where commitment, okay, should happen. Minimal age, let's say 32. All right. So why do we say that? Because a man starts to reach his peak sexual market value around here. All right. Let's say this is 40 down over here. Okay. So man's peak sexual market value happens right around here. All right. So his opportunity to have the highest quality mate is going to happen right around here. Now, his sexual markets, individuals will vary, right? His sexual market could continue to increase, and he could be in his 40s and be at his peak and meet his peak in his 40s. All right. So individuals will vary. There's a standard deviation, but generally speaking, we don't want to give away a commitment till we're about 32. So the biggest danger, all right, that a man has is giving away his commitment. All right. That's the thing. The biggest danger he has is giving away his commitment to the wrong woman and doing it too early. So the danger zone for this guy, okay, we'll use red, I guess, for danger zone. The danger zone for this guy is early. All right. Let's say here until he's about this 32. All right. If he not, and here's why this is a danger zone. If he gets saddled in a relationship and let's say involuntarily knocks up a woman, gets her pregnant, he doesn't control the pregnancy, right? She does. So because he has no control of the actual pregnancy, meaning he can't decide to abort the baby or give it up for adoption, and he can protect himself, use condoms and such, but really she has much more control than he does of that pregnancy. This is the danger zone for a kid, okay, and for a young adult male. The danger is that he gives away his commitment to a woman that takes away his male imperative. So his imperative is to make his dent in the universe and to make bank and accomplish things in life and create a quality of life for himself and for other people around him and his family. His danger is he gives his commitment away too early saddles himself with her imperative, what she wants, her want for that new house, or that live in a different place, or to spend money on this thing and that thing, or, to start knocking out kids early, that sort of thing. He starts doing that before he reaches his SMV peak. Okay. So this is his SMV peak, should be here. What happens is he gives away himself and his mate in who he is as a man for some woman before he's able to reach his peak in FSMV. So instead of rising in sexual market value, right, he gets let's say he knocks up a girl when he's 21 years old or something, all right, or gets in a serious relationship early, right, gets saddled with responsibilities, and instead of increasing his sexual market value to where, as he ages, which is what he should be doing, he starts to decline, right? He gets less physically capable. He gets out of shape. He gets saddled with responsibilities and goes through bankruptcies and gets in over his head with debt. He's working for somebody else and gets into a dead end job. Do you see what I mean? He hits what we call, what John had termed from Modern Life Dating, he termed it the loser wall. I love that term because he hits that loser wall because he saddles himself with a female imperative, with a commitment, with her ideas, and helps to boost her up and get her what she wants too early before he's high enough value. Okay. And so then what ends up happening to that man is he's saddled with somebody else's imperative, somebody else's commitment, or worse yet, he just screws around during this time in his life. Okay. And focuses maybe too much on dicking around and having fun with women or whatever, doesn't work on his SMV. And then he hits that loser wall. He's out of shape. He's broke. He's not doing well. And now women don't want him, right? He's now discarded. Okay. Or the woman that he married and banged out a couple kids with now is bled him dry, divorces him, discards him at 35 after there's 2 kids, takes half of his stuff, and then tries to level up to a different guy who had been working on his SMV this whole time and maybe not getting women, okay, as well. And so this is the danger for dudes. So the biggest thing that guys need to work on is their sexual market value. Now, men are the gatekeepers of commitment. Women are the gatekeepers of sex. So a man can achieve, and men are not affected with pair bonding. In other words, a man can settle down with a woman and be happy, even if he's had a lot of previous sexual partners. It seems to not affect his pair bonding ability. This has to do with neurochemicals. It's a scientific thing, and it has to do with the reaction he has when he is in a pair bonding experience with a woman. He doesn't blunt it the way that a woman, her pair bonding ability seems to be blunted with multiple sex partners. So for a man, dating around and not getting into a commitment is his optimal strategy until he reaches, or at least starts to approach, his peak SMV. Okay. It's not about the sex. It's not trying to bang 100 women. It's about protecting your commitment so you don't waste that opportunity and saddle yourself with responsibilities before you reach your peak SMV. You need to, life can be tough, right? You need to optimize every chance you can get, okay, with making yourself a better man when you're younger. Your value is really perceived as nothing. You offer no value to the world when you're 18, 19 years old, really, unless you are an anomaly, like a professional athlete, or you're not a celebrity that just kind of fell into that, and that's an extreme outlier. Most men don't really start, achieving value to the world until they're later in their 20s and in their early 30s. Okay. So now there's different ways to wash with this, and we'll get into that. But let's look at the female strategy a little bit different. Okay. So now a woman starts having sex at 15. Okay. Let's say she has her first sexual partner at 15. 18 to 21, okay, is when she's really growing into her SMV and her womanhood. All right. And somewhere below 25 and above 18 is her peak value as a woman. All right. So her peak value as a woman is somewhere around here and then goes down. All right. And I say value as a woman, this is what women don't understand. It's what men value from women, not how she values herself or what she thinks. We're talking about mating decisions here. And so when I say market value for a man, okay, I mean, in a sense, it is his value to the world too, though, is mirrors this very closely. But I'm talking about that man's value to a woman. All right. How he's perceived as mateable, okay, and sexually desirable and relationship desirable, okay. His value to a woman based on what she's looking for doesn't start to increase, doesn't reach peak until mid 30s. Her value to a man, okay, is already at the peak when she starts becoming sexually active very early on. Once she gets through the idiot stage of being a teenager, okay, and her body develops fully, and she is at the youngest and hottest in terms of her youthfulness and her appearance, and appearance of fertility is really what it is. She is at her peak there. Because what men value is sexual access and sexual quality with women who are hot. And what makes women hot is youthfulness and fertility signals. All right. So a nice booty, a thin waist, boobs, like good skin, all these things are signs of fertility. All right. That's what triggers us to be attracted. We're not attracted to plus size women. Okay. That's a social engineering attempt that's not working. Men are attracted to what would constitute fertility signals. Now, individual preferences will vary. Some guys might want a tall blonde, another guy might want a short brunette. Okay. I'm more of the short brunette type. All right. But sometimes a tall blonde's nice. We all know it's pretty, we as men, because that's our first imperative is sexual access and sexual quality to high fertility signaling women or hot young women. Okay. So she hasn't had to work on anything and essentially shows up due to genetics being at her highest value. Much different than a guy who's relatively worthless to a woman, unless he's a Chad, then he's only really short-term worth, right? Until he works on himself and achieves his own value. All right. So she's here. But what are some other things that a woman brings to a man? We look at long-term relationship. Another thing this is a question. This is why women fail so often. Guys fail too for different reasons, but this is a reason why women fail so often. Okay. Is that they don't ask themselves this question. What does a man want? What value do I bring to a man? Women don't ask themselves that, unfortunately, like they should. They think that the value that they see in themselves is what a man values. So you'll hear women say things like, I got 2 wonderful kids who are well-behaved and they do good in school. All right. They don't even realize it's a liability to any man. Okay. No man wants you to start a family like that and be the dad of someone else's kids. Right. To any man that she would find valuable and high value, the kind of guy she wants doesn't want that. Or I got a master's degree and I'm good at my job. No guy cares about that. Women will do things for a man on their own terms and then expect a man to eat that and accept it. And if they don't, then they're a piece of crap. A man is not allowed in most women's mind today. Okay. In the West, a man is not allowed to assert what he wants from a woman. A woman decides what she's going to give him and he needs to be happy with that. Well, guess what? That's a recipe for failure in every relationship, because only guys who are low sexual market value will put up with that crap. And so this is why she bangs a bunch of Chads who are higher sexual market value when she's at this age, okay, the 21 through 25 area, right? And these guys kick her to the curb because she's unpleasant to be around, to put it very simply. She was good to bang and not good to have around for much else. All right. And they don't understand that they're not bringing value to that guy's life, to a guy's life that they'd want to stay with. And so then they make necessity a virtue. Well, I didn't really like him that much anyways, and I just wanted to get laid, and I don't care about having a relationship right now, and whatever. It's making necessity a virtue. It's because they don't want to face the fact that they got to actually work on stuff and do stuff. Men know they have to work on stuff from the beginning because they are failing usually from the beginning, with very few exceptions, and those few popular guys in high school and those few guys who sort of figure out game and are more the chads early on, right? Most men figure out, holy crap, I need to increase my value if I want to have good women in my life. And even the chads and the popular guy who all the girls wanted to suck him off in the back of the bus or whatever in high school, even those dudes find that they're not getting the kinds of women that they would want. They're getting women, but it's not the kind that they would want. And if they want a better quality, that they need to up their sexual market value. Women need to understand that they need to up their sexual market value too, outside of the first thing that men want, which is their looks and their fertility, right? And those signals. Men want to have an emotional draw to a woman who is submissive, who is feminine, and who idealizes him, sees him as great, props him up, not in a beta way, but in, where she sees him as that alpha. That's what causes a man to emotionally invest in a woman. Women who are parasites can mimic this. Okay. And this is how guys get caught up in BPD women, because during the love bombing phase, they'll mimic that. All right. But mimicking it isn't the same as actually being it. And a woman who's not just manipulating a man or a gold digger or one of these types of girls whose desire isn't just to manipulate a man, but her desire is to actually have healthy, happy relationships. She needs to understand that she needs to be feminine, submissive, fun to be around, right? Because that's what feminine and submissive translates to. Okay. And, see him as worthy, right? Those are what cause a man to gravitate towards her emotionally. Okay. Also, a woman needs to demonstrate that she has loyalty and she has principles. And those principles specifically are loyalty, right? And a desire for having that exclusive relationship and having what I call relationship behaviors, right? Versus mate switching behaviors. That's a third quality men are looking for to increase their happiness for a woman rather than just banging them and leaving them, right? And women at this phase, as early as 15, really, as early as they get a start, a woman needs to start working on these skills, because these are skills. Fourth one is maternity signals, or signals that she would be a good mother. That means being conscientious, being compassionate towards her partner, the kind of girl that will make you a sandwich. Okay. She makes you a sandwich because she cares about you. And that means that she'll probably care about her kids too. These are attractive things to men. And the fifth thing, the last thing, is not being a detriment to a man's life. That's another thing that a woman needs to bring to a man. Too often guys are compromising. They pick the hot girl, but she's also toxic behaviors, overly emotional, brings him drama, so on and so forth. And so he's compromising the sexual needs for that sometimes the most important need, which is she brings him too much drama. She becomes a detriment to his life, or she's a financial detriment, an emotional drain. You see, a mental drain, all of those things, a resource drain. And so that guy ends up banging her, not committing to her, right? And these are things that women need to look at. So women don't protect the commitment. They don't want to commit to the wrong guy either. But what they really have control over and protect is the sex, their sexuality. And if women bang too many guys, right, and have too many experiencers, there's risks of them not being able to be happy in a relationship with a guy, and needing to mate switch all the time in order to feel emotionally satisfied. Really, there is no emotional satisfaction if pair bonding can't happen. And that's what mate switching or cheating behaviors and those promiscuous behaviors are. It's a lack of satisfaction with a partner. You know what I mean? And so she's at risk of executing a promiscuous strategy here and ruining her ability later on to be happy. And we'll get into this. So at 25, between 25 and 30, this is a actually, we'll say 28. Okay. Between 25 and 28 is a critical time when women start to realize this big number here is happening, which is 30. Okay. 30 is the midlife crisis for a woman. All right. 30 is midlife crisis age for most women. This is when they're no longer young and hot again. Even if they're hot and 30, they don't feel and they know that they're not as young and hot as they were in 21. Right. What they're offering as a 30-year-old woman to a man is not the man's first imperative, which is sexual, being with a hot girl, right, who wants to have sex with them. A 21-year-old can achieve that easier than she can at 30, and she knows it. She realizes that impending doom somewhere between 25 and 28. She realizes the impending doom of 30 is happening. Now, she can still be hot at 30, okay, but she knows she's on a decline once she hits that number. All right. So this is a danger zone for women. And actually, the danger zone from women, the real danger zone, is between 30 and 35. Okay. So this is the real danger zone for women. This is where women, okay, really run into the danger. And notice it's opposite for men, right? Their danger zone happens from starting at around between 25 and 28 when they realize their decline. This is their optimal time. Okay. This is their optimal time right here to snag a man. Okay. Now, really, this is the time that they should want to snag a man. Okay. As early as possible. But here's the problem. They don't have the emotional maturity and the mental maturity and the understanding and the place in life to offer all of those other qualities I mentioned to a man. To be a person who's not a detriment to a man's life because she's self-sufficient, both emotionally, financially, mentally, all of those things, that takes some time for her to get to, right? An 18-year-old probably isn't going to be there. You see, an 18-year-old is probably going to bring you some drama and some emotional instability. And if she doesn't bring it to you when she's 18, she will when she's 27, 28, when she questions her decisions for settling down so early. You see what I mean? There's emotional and mental development that happens for a woman between the age of 15 and 25. Okay. And even at between 21 and 25, these are her peak sexual years. This is her sexual peak, but maybe not her relationship peak, because usually she's needing some maturity. And if she gets into a man's life, she's going to bring in problems and drama. Not only that, if that girl, let's say, gets married at 21, she will inevitably have a crisis at 28 and question that decision. It will happen every single time. Now, that doesn't mean that she's going to divorce the guy and be unhappy. She may decide, I made the right decision, but she's going to go through a trial period, some point when she reaches epiphany and realizes the impending doom of 30. That 21, 22-year-old that gets saddled in a relationship early will inevitably question. And there's risk too, questioning this entire time in the global sexual marketplace. So she needs experiences, life experiences, not necessarily sexual ones, between 20 and 25 to realize what she really wants. Okay. And so the risk is you guys try to wife up these young girls and stuff. What happens is they're not mature yet. They don't know what they really want. And so then they question all that stuff later. And then they decide to part ways with you. Now, that's maybe you had a great time with them when they were young and hot, and that's okay. But the problem is then you guys will saddle yourself into marriages, into children, into combining finances and doing all that kind of stuff with a young girl, right? And you're even leaving, letting go of your sexual exclusivity for that girl. And maybe it's great sex and maybe it's worth it. But the problem is you sacrifice all that other stuff as a man just to have her leave you anyway at 28. And so now you're paying for some 28-year-old's divorce, maybe, right? For some of you guys, you don't want that. And so that's why I say the prime commitment age, again, individuals will vary. If you meet a great 22-year-old, that's worth it. there's a way to handle all of these concerns. If you meet a great 32-year-old woman that's worth it, there's great ways to handle all these concerns, okay? But we're just speaking optimally here. Right now in the global sexual marketplace, for the way things are, 25 to 28 is the optimal age or area, okay, for them. They start to realize and question their own behaviors. They realize their sexual decline, which forces them to start challenging their beliefs and their behaviors and start making better decisions. A 21-year-old girl generally isn't challenging her beliefs or decisions. Now, if a chick is, but we're going to talk about doing the optimal strategy, right? So a guy's optimal strategy was to spin plates. Why spin plates? Not just to bang women, although that's an enjoyable part of it. It's to learn how to handle women. It's to learn how to communicate in relationship scenarios, or just communicate with women in general, and how to be alpha, right, with a woman. This is a whole learning process. While he's increasing his SMV, what he wants to do is he wants to be dating. Now, I'm not necessarily saying he has to bang everybody he's dating, but he wants to be having experiences with women and getting better with women, because this man is not going to turn around when he's 32 years old and is more well established. If he's been in monk mode this whole time, if he's been this awkward person who hasn't been working on his relationships with women, he's not going to turn around at 32 and all of a sudden just get married to a hottie and everything's going to be great. He's going to be sexually and socially awkward. He's going to be a potential victim to a predatory woman. You see what I mean? He's a lot of things. Having skills, remember the three things, which is sexual market value, skill, and opportunity. Having skill with women is something you need to be working on as a man between 15 and when you finally start looking at potential LTR material for something a little bit more long-term, okay? Your skill isn't there yet at 21, all right? And your sexual market value is low. So work on your skill while you're working on your sexual market value. That's why men spin plates. Women need to be working on their skill too, but their attractiveness, therefore their market value, is the highest when they're 21 and they have the least amount of skills, right? So they need to be working on their skills. So when they decline and hit that 30 mark and beyond, they have the skill sets as a woman to be valuable to a man, as her looks, which is her most valuable asset, and fertility signals, which is what a man sees as her most valuable asset, declines. So that man becomes that high value man. She needs to be able to get that woman that's past 30. She needs to be able to get that man emotionally invested and get him to see her as, give him great sex with whatever she has, even though she's not a 21-year-old, right? And she needs to bring him all of those other compliments, to have those good mom characteristics, to be loyal, to have good values, to make him feel good, to be feminine, to be submissive, to prop him up, to make his life better, to make his life easier, to be a compliment to his life, not a detriment to his life. That takes skill too. So girl game is developing those skills, all right? Guy game is different. Girl game is developing those other skills. So as she decreases in her sexual value in terms of her looks, right, her sexual, availability and her maturity and her ways to draw a guy in emotionally by being feminine, being submissive, and then also balancing that, having enough emotional dependence on him where it's feminine, but not so much emotional dependence where she detriments his life. That's a skill set. Women need to develop these skills. And if they don't start developing them early, they're not going to turn around and just have these skills when they're 32 years old now, ready to settle down, or even when they're 28 years old and ready to settle down. For each year, their physical appearance goes down in theory. So but that means more work, right? They can work to maintain that appearance. And these are all expressed things they need to do to bring value to a man. Now, the problem with women in the West today is they don't believe they need to do anything to bring value to a man, or the things that they think that they should do are all on their own terms. You know what I mean? Instead of asking themselves the question, even if it's outside of my own comfort zone, what do I need to do to complement this man's life and to make him want to be with me, even if I'm 35 years old. This is supposed to be a 35 years old, and wait, and no, my fertility is compromised and I'm way far into a decline now. Do you see what I mean? What does that 40-year-old woman after a long relationship bring to that man? Okay, why isn't that man going to divorce her? The reason he's not is because she supplies him with the emotional attachment through her femininity, submissiveness, how she treats him, how she makes him feel. Okay, she complements his life, all of those things I mentioned, right? And so girl game is different. The advice for girls is to protect her sexuality. I'm not saying that a girl needs to be a virgin until she gets married. That's not practical in this day and age. But what she needs to do is practice relationship behaviors that are going to bring a man all of these other intangible skills that I mentioned outside of her vagina. Okay? Because after a while, her vagina becomes worth less and less, and those other skills become worth more and more unless she's not working on them. And so the mistake women are making is they give away. This is why women can't do what a guy could do. They give away their sexuality. They don't protect it. And then what ends up happening is they compromise their ability to pair bond or be happy with a man. So all those other skills that they would bring a man that would make a man want to make them happy too, they don't have it because they're not getting the feelings that would make them want to have that. The feelings aren't there, okay? And because they've compromised their pair bonding because of their sexual promiscuity and dicking around in their past and their selfish behavior and entitled behavior and not learning these other skills that would make them bring value to a man. So what does a woman need to do? She needs to work on these skills when she's the hottest. And hopefully, as she works on these skills, she gets better and better and better. And then she manages right around this time frame here, before she's 30, sometime maybe after 24, 25, she manages to bag a good dude, right? And to have that, if that's what she wants a long-term relationship that's going to work. Her best chances of doing that are when she is not saddled with obligations or kids or baggage, and she's between, but she has enough maturity though to bring in enough development to bring those other intangibles besides sex and how she looks to a man. And that's going to end up being this 24, 25 to about 28, 29 area. She declines after that. The danger zone, once again, that danger zone is 28 to 35. This is the danger zone. This is the critical time where if she does not bag a high value man, she's going to start having to make compromises. Okay. And that could mean that she's not going to be happy. Can a woman who's 40, 45 years old find a man and be happy? Yeah, she can. She can do that. Okay. However, chances are she's going to have a much different outlook than this 25-year-old. The 25-year-old that's hot and on point and has developed all of these skill sets over time and hasn't been trashing her vagina through promiscuous behavior and treating her body like garbage. Okay. Based on short-term sexual desires, that chick, that 25 valuable chick, has the best chance of getting a high-value man that meet all the checklist and who's an alpha guy and who's attractive. That 25-year-old has the best chances there. 28, still pretty good. Starts to decline after 28. After 30, starts to decline faster. After 35, for a lot of women, it's damn near hopeless. Now, if a woman coaches with me and she's in her 40s, I can get her the best chances. Okay. But a lot of times a woman who's like 42, for example, she's going to have to compromise. She's not going to get everything on her checklist probably. And the problem with women today is they think that they can have everything. A man knows he can't have everything. A man knows because he has to start increasing his value right away in the beginning. A man knows, okay, that he's going to have to, adjust his standards according to his value. A woman has in the global sexual marketplace, in a gynocentric society, she thinks her value is much higher than it is forever. And she thinks she has infinite chances to not mess up her life. She thinks she has infinite opportunities, right? And the fact of the matter is, she does not. Okay. A man has it much easier because even if a man screws himself up, let's say he gets a girl pregnant at 18, by the time he's 35, 36, he could be out of the weeds into a good job and still be sexually marketable enough to get a hot girl in this category here. Okay. For that guy who's, his kid is now going to be grown up more and he can still get a hot girl at her peak relationship age, or even bang hot girls or just have hot girls in their peak sexual age, which is that, this area right here. Right. Whereas a woman, she never endingly declines. You see what I mean? And so she has to optimize her chances and stack her chances to do well in the beginning. And only 10% of relationships work, man. So this is not an easy task for men or for women. So both men and women need to optimize their opportunities and their chances every which way they can. A woman that squanders away her youth and doesn't work on her emotional maturity, mental maturity, and relationship skills will find herself alone or with a low value man when she's in her 30s. Okay, that's what happens. And that's why I'm so hard on women. It's not because I don't like women. It's because I want women to be happy. And I know that this behavior that they cry about, that we shame them for, is a recipe for disaster. Now, a final point, how do these things complement each other? Okay, women are attracted to older men with high SMV. So in an optimal world, the 32-year-old is hooking up with girls, okay, that are emotionally mature and in their 20s, and they're having that relationship. Okay, if for it to, the best chances, because I know you guys like statistics, even though human beings aren't statistics, and you need to run your life practically speaking, like I said in the video, and not be so focused on probabilities that don't even matter to you because your life is different. Okay. But I know you guys like it and like this stuff. So let's talk, but it's important. It is important to kind of talk about a guy who's between 32 and 35, who's coming into his peak sexual market value, can easily hook up with any girl in her 20s. Right. And he can get that girl who's right at that age where she's starting to become, she's emotionally mature. He finds a girl who's actually been working on the other aspects of her sexual market value besides her looks. Okay. She's actually been developing her ability to be good in a relationship. Okay. Because she's been doing pair bonding relationship behaviors and not just promiscuous, garden tool phase behaviors. He can get this girl with his high sexual market value, pick her out of a crowd. Okay. Pick that 24-year-old out of a crowd and then have that long-term relationship and have it work out really well. All right. And that's how it works. That's how it complements. The woman starts off at her sexual peak right when she starts banging practically, but she has to work on those intangibles to be relationship material by the time she's 25, and her critical time and best time to find a dude is between 25 and 28, and it declines from there. Whereas a man is his lowest value he's going to be as soon as he starts becoming, sexually interested and active, and he needs to stave off the commitment, work on his SMV until he reaches his peak or gets close enough to it where he can start thinking seriously about anything long term. All right, that's how this complements. They're different strategies completely. A woman needs to not be promiscuous. A woman needs to protect her sexuality and only give it away in relationship scenarios. No vacation sex, no hot fling, no this bull stuff, that stuff. Have a hot fling with a guy that you vetted for really being a relationship material, and then be in a relationship with him, or try to be for at least a couple of years. Be sexually exclusive with guys at the very least as you're working on yourself in college, for example, instead of juggling multiple guys and banging this guy here, banging that guy here, getting drunk and high at parties, having, banging a couple dudes. All that behavior is not only not working on those other skill sets and relationship skills, but all of that behavior is a detriment. It's going to be a detriment to her having those skills that she would need to be in a relationship in the future. It's going to create a situation where she can't pair bond. She can't have the proper emotions in a we'll say monogamous or semi-monogamous relationship. In the relationship that she would want, which is being with a high value man, she can't manage it. She can't have it. She's not worth it. And she can't be happy when she's doing a male strategy when she's at her peak sexual age, which is around that 21 mark. She needs to be working on herself and then be able to have the maturity to pair bond with that high SMV guy who's coming into his SMV guy when she's 25 or 28, and he makes it happen when he's 32 to 35. All right. So that sums it up basically. That is a very cute drawing. I'm going to put it on my fridge. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. That the female strategy and how I would advise a female and how you should advise your daughters, your female friends who are younger, and so on and so forth is much different than the male strategy. Okay. And I'm not saying men need to have 100 lays or 50 lays in order to be this, that, and the other. That's not what I'm saying. Okay. But men need to have experience with women and be able to manage women and communicate and manage a relationship, as well as be high SMV, which is why men need to select women that are going to be right for them, right? For that relationship thing. Then the worst thing a man can do, at least one of the worst things a man can do with his life, is saddle himself in a relationship with the wrong woman. Okay. So the male strategy is designed to protect him from doing that and doing the worst thing. The worst thing a woman can do for her life is end up being saddled with the wrong man because she squandered away her opportunity of choice when she was younger. For a woman, remember, it's SMV, skill, and opportunity as well. But her SMV is the highest when her skill is the lowest. So she needs to reach that tipping point where her SMV is still high and the skill starts to rise to get to that a good enough level. And then she has all of the opportunities in the world to manage getting that best guy that she could get, which is at that age category I mentioned for most women. Whereas guys, they start off SMV is lowest, skill is also very low, but opportunity is good, maybe, all right, depending on their environment. So they have opportunities to meet women and stuff and interact with hot women, but their skill and their SMV is low. So a man needs to increase that skill and SMV over time, which is why his strategy is plate spinning and not being too serious, keeping it casual. But a woman can mitigate a guy's promiscuous behavior by setting some standards and requirements for herself. All right. And so maybe that woman is going through periods where she's not banging someone. Wow. Imagine that. Poor girl not banging a guy, not throwing another appendage in her body for, I don't know, a period of time. Could you imagine the horror? Maybe women should consider doing that when they're younger and having those periods and vetting it out for guys who are willing to be somewhat exclusive and pair bonded and maybe moving towards something. And so her strategy is different than the guy's strategy. Okay. And at first there's a little bit of conflict there because he wants, access to sex and to spin multiple women, and she needs to protect her sexuality and not give it away to him. So there's a bit of a conflict there, which is why male-female sexual strategy evolved differently, can be conflicting sometimes, but you can see how it all works out. If she does the right thing for herself and he does the right thing for himself, gender-wise, you come together later when he is that 32 to 35 peak sexual market value in the idealistic world. For those of you guys who want to know how this would fit, when he's in that peak area and she's at her peak area between, let's say, 25 to 28, they can come together and have an amazing relationship. They have the best opportunity for that. Okay. But besides the idealism of it, because that really doesn't matter so much, what matters is what is good for you. All right. So when talking to women and women that listen to this stuff and you guys that want to understand what women should do, that is what they should do. I just illustrated it. And that strategy is far different than what a guy is going to do, but they can complement each other when they come together in the right way. You see what I'm saying? That's how it's supposed to work. Men and women are different, but they can complement each other. All right. And so you need to execute, whether you're a man or a woman, whether you're 18 years old or whether you're 45 years old, you need to execute the strategy that is best for you today, given the reality that we live in today. That's the pragmatic approach. You need to take the pragmatic approach for you. Taking the pragmatic approach for you while being benevolent to others is how we change society, for those of you guys who are concerned about that. You influence yourself first, and then you influence your social circles through example. And when you bring a woman into your life that's worth it, and you have great relationships with women, okay, women, you have quality relationships with men, and you're a good partner to a man. That's how things start changing. But it starts with you and the decisions you make for yourself, okay? And trying to fit some ideal that doesn't exist won't get you there. You have to be pragmatic and make decisions based on what's going to be good for you in the reality that we live in. Thanks again for the support.